Hello and welcome to the Sound Healing with the Voice series. My name is Alexandra Rigazzi-Tarling and you can find me at soundrelaxationcentre.com or collegeofsoundhealing.co.uk. And in this series I will be discussing many different aspects of using the voice for healing, but particularly sound healing with the voice. We're going to start today looking at diaphragmatic breathing. So thanks for joining me today. So why diaphragmatic breathing? Well, I wanted to start this series with an episode on diaphragmatic breathing, sometimes called belly breathing, because it's fundamental to our health and well-being, and it's fundamental to good voice use. When I'm working with students on the Sound Healing Practitioner Training, or perhaps with clients that come for singing lesson or relaxation and meditation, I'll ask them to take a deep breath in, and usually I see this. And they'll breathe up into the body, lifting the shoulders, lifting the chest, and completely disconnecting from the core and the diaphragm area and the abs. That many people haven't been taught how to access the diaphragm and how to make it flexible for good breathing. So that's why I wanted to do this episode today. So what is diaphragmatic breathing good for? Well, first and foremost, diaphragmatic breathing is the way nature intended us to breathe. And at its very basic level, it's an automatic response that keeps us alive. So as you go about your day or as you're sleeping at night, you don't have to think about taking the air in and out of your lungs. It's actually happening on its own. Secondly, diaphragmatic breathing helps us to widen our body, to expand our rib cage, to expand into our belly. It keeps us very centered. And in doing this and focusing on this process of diaphragmatic breathing, we can actually start to bring ourselves into a parasympathetic nervous system state of being, so we can balance and regulate our nervous system. If we're stressed and we're running around doing lots of things, or we're having a bad day, or we're in a panic situation, by harnessing diaphragmatic breathing, we can bring ourselves back to a place of calm. And then, of course, when we are grounded and calm, we can access our intuition more efficiently, more effectively. We can find a clarity and focus in our work. And if you're a healer or a sound healer and you're working with your voice, then actually feeling this sense of centeredness, of groundedness, of calm, of focus is really important, because we're actually using our voice then on another person, over a client. So we're entraining the client into that state with our sound. We need to first of all feel those feelings of clarity, calm, groundedness, in order to help to entrain somebody else into that state. Last of all, when we're using our voice for healing, we will be connecting to longer vocal tones. So diaphragmatic breathing helps us control and steady the length of the tone. We're dealing with so many aspects as healers, and especially as voice healers, and diaphragmatic breathing is the common denominator. It's the thing that unites everything. Let's just look for a moment at where the diaphragm is located, because very often people just sort of say, oh, you know, it's somewhere in the middle. And actually, yes, it is somewhere in the middle, but it's quite specific. So if you think about your rib cage as being a dome shape, and your lungs are either side of that, the base of the dome of the rib cage, this bit here, is the diaphragm, and it's a sheet of skeletal muscle, and it separates the chest from the abdomen. And when we breathe in and out, the diaphragm moves, and this happens naturally on its own when we're not thinking about it. But when we want to harness the power of diaphragmatic breathing, we need to look at how we can release the diaphragm down further and get it working up further as well. And then we want to look at how we can control this recoil of the diaphragm so that we're having some sort of say in what's going on. So how do we actually access the diaphragm? Because if anyone's ever said to you, move your diaphragm, you'd be thinking, how do I do that? This is where the abdominal muscles play a big part in this movement, and very often people are stuck in pulling in mode. So when the abdominals are pulled in, the diaphragm gets stuck up too high, and the lungs actually then can't expand and we can't take a deep breath in. So what we have to look at doing is expanding into the ab muscles, softening the ab muscles, actually allowing them to expand so that when we breathe, we can expand like a beach ball into the belly, into the ribs, into the back, and feel our entire torso widen and actually lower. So rather than taking a breath in and feeling that everything lifts up, this is probably the most shallow breath you could take. Instead, we're going to take a deep breath, expand the belly, and as we do that, everything drops down, the lungs release down and they widen. So we actually get ourselves into a completely different stance, into a completely different energy. And this is why diaphragmatic breathing is so grounding, because when we widen, we become very strong, and that's what we need in terms of stamina as well for healing and for voice use. So let's have a look at some exercises you can do to really get in touch with your diaphragm and your abs and harness this wonderful power of diaphragmatic breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing is really flexible breathing. It's about having flexible abs and a flexible diaphragm, being able to pull in with the abs and also, and probably most importantly, release and soften the abs. This will depend very much on how you are as a person. Some people are used to really pulling in tight. People that work out a lot, people that dance, people that hold a lot of stress and tension in the body. They are used to pulling in really tight, and to soften that is usually very difficult. And we have to remember, this isn't about pushing forward with the back. This isn't anything to do with the lower back and altering our posture. We need to keep a good posture, a slight pelvic tilt. The work is being done at the front here. Likewise, if you have no feeling in your abs, if you have a lot of dormant muscle there, you might not be used to pulling them in as well as letting go, but pulling in might even be an issue. So we need to start first of all at looking at flexibility. So it's not about one way or the other, it's about being able to move. So first of all, just sit comfortably if you can, or stand, it doesn't matter, you can really do this anywhere. And I'd like you to focus your consciousness and your attention down to your ab muscles, your belly. And I'd like you just to pull your belly in, like you're putting on your tight trousers. And you might find that the body lifts up a little bit if you're good at pulling in. You're not lifting up though, that's a response from the abs pulling in, the diaphragm lifting up and the lungs moving. That's not you lifting. So pulling in and then just letting the abs go. When you let them go, don't let the lower back go. So just the abs, focus just on that, isolate that area. So pulling in and letting go. Tight trousers on, zips done up. Pulling in and let go. Just do 2 more of those. We're just pulling in, so you can see my upper body's staying pretty disengaged. Nothing's really happening here. And letting go. There's a little bit of movement, but that's a response from moving in the abs. And let go. So this very simple exercise just helps us gain consciousness, awareness of what's going on here. If you pull in all the time, then you're going to have to focus a little bit more on how you can learn to release and soften those muscles. If you're always out and you can't pull in, then you're going to have to work a little bit on pulling in. So what we want is to be able to work equally, 50% pulling in and 50% release. So the second exercise I'd like you to look at is what I call reset breathing. So rather than taking air into the lungs straight away and taking a deep breath, which is, what we tend to be quite good at that, breathing in, we're actually going to look at what happens when we exhale. So when we exhale all of the air out of the lungs, we often go into what we call negative pressure, where we push the last remaining bits of air from the lungs. Now, we don't need to do this all the time, but if we are using the voice for vocal toning, for example, and we're wanting to hold a long tone and we're wanting to hold it steadily, then this type of breathing will be necessary. So first of all, just again, sitting comfortably. If you get lightheaded with this type of stuff, then please sit down or lie down. Don't stand up, because it's powerful breathing. And I'd like you to imagine that you're going to steam up the bathroom mirror. So like, but I want you to breathe the air all the way from your abs, rather than feeling that you just breathe from up here. I want you to feel that your abs are actually going to be gently pulling in. If this is my spine and this is my abs, that they're going to be pulling in. So I'm actually turning myself into a bit of a toothpaste tube, and I'm squeezing the air out of my lungs. And I'm going to control the rate at which I do that. So I'll just show you first of all. I'm going to breathe out. I'm at the end of the airflow now. I'm going to do a little bit more, squeeze the abs. And now I'm empty. So I'm going to release the abdominal muscles, just the abdominal muscles. And naturally, the air is drawn into my lungs because I release the abs. The diaphragm drops down, the lungs are allowed to widen, the rib cage widens, and the air is pulled into my lungs. So I get a very low, deep breath. This is a really good way of accessing diaphragmatic movement and flexibility, because when we keep trying to take a deep breath, you know, if something's wrong or we've got stress and people say, take deep breaths. And of course, we're just pumping ourselves up and taking more and more air in. So actually the key to this is in the exhalation. And last of all, we're just going to look at a simple exercise for inhalation and exhalation, but expanding the abdominals as we inhale, consciously bringing the air down and widening the body. And this is amazing for the groundedness I spoke about earlier, for really connecting our energy down, for getting ourselves into a good, strong, calm state, a balanced state. So I'd like you to draw the air in through your nose, and like we did before, breathe the air out through your mouth, like you're steaming up the bathroom mirror, just like we would if we were vocalizing. We'd be opening our mouth. And I'd like you to breathe in and feel that the middle of your body, this whole middle area, is like a beach ball that's expanding. So you actually sit into your body and into your rib cage. And then as you breathe out, your belly's going to move gently back to resting position. So you are actually taking control of the exhalation, rather than breathing in and just letting everything deflate. You are using the abs to consciously control the diaphragm. So let's just try that now. Take a deep breath in, expand into your body. Feel your rib cage widen, feel your lungs expand. You should feel wonderful wide. And then as you breathe out, gently pull your belly in and feel that you're feeding the air up and out. When you're all the way in, we're going to go again. Breathe in through the nose, expand into the abs. Everything drops down rather than lifting up. And breathe out. Feel that air like a wave. Sounds like the sea. So we breathe in. Deep breath, expand out. Breathe all the air out. There you go. It's amazing how much air we actually hold in the lungs. So actually focusing on exhaling is really important. And we don't need loads of air for vocalizing. But if you're wanting to meditate and hold really long vocal tones, then you are going to need fuller lungs of air. And if you're stuck up here, everything's going to be tight and tense in the throat. So diaphragmatic breathing will help you bring all of that down. If you're interested in learning more about diaphragmatic breathing, vocal toning, toning for health and well-being, positive affirmation, the psychology of vocalizing, and all of the wonderful health benefits, proven health benefits of vocalizing, then you might be interested in checking out my online course, An Introduction to Authentic Voice for Wellbeing, which is available on my website and contains several hours of video tutorials with me alongside my ebook. If you're interested in training as a sound healing practitioner using your voice and tuning forks, then check out the next round of College of Sound Healing training on my website, or go to the collegeofsoundhealing.co.uk, where you can find practitioners and tutors all around the UK with lots of wonderful workshops and events and training going on. So that's it from me for this episode. Thanks very much for joining me, and I hope to see you again for future episodes in this Sound Healing with the Voice series. If you like it, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future.